Welcome to the Jennifer J. Hammond Podcast. Jennifer is a licensed realtor, educator, speaker, and best-selling author. Jennifer's goal is to help you find your yay in every day. Jennifer is grateful for the opportunity to educate, empower, and inspire you with powerful conversations, insights, and new viewpoints. Here's your host, Jennifer J. Hammond.
This is Jennifer Hammond, and I'm so excited. Yay! I have a good friend of mine today. I'm so excited because I love it when I find my buddies, my friends, who are also people who really care about helping and changing the world for good. So I want you to meet Phillip Vincent. He is the founder of Mom's House. And I got to tell you, this is when I first met him and I heard his purpose, his mission. I was so excited because so often when we get into troubled times, we don't know where to turn for help, and not for a vulture, because I hate to say, and I've seen this with the veteran community, but also when you're transitioning and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do about your parents, and even if you're listening and you're thinking about, what do you do for retirement? What do I do? Do I age in place or do I move into a retirement home? What are these options? And who's out there to really be a trusted advisor? Well, Mom's House is a whole organization you should know about. So first of all, welcome to the show, Phillip.
Thank you for having me on. I'm very yay to be here. Very excited to be here with you. Yay.
Well, I'm so excited. Well, because I think you make a lot of people say yay in every day.
I try to every day.
So talk about, I think it's so interesting because I think your background is, you've done real estate investing for years, but this is really interesting. When you founded Mom's House, it's a much bigger purpose than real estate or any single thing. It's really about helping people, right?
That's right. And I call them the most responsible child. And sometimes that child can be up to 8. The oldest responsible child I ever helped was 80 years old. He was a gentleman who was helping his 98-year-old mother-in-law. Could you imagine? So when I say most responsible child, I'm usually talking someone in their 50s to their 70s, helping their parents in the transition from their forever home into a long-term care community.
And I think that time in their life when you're trying to make that decision, it's a very emotional decision. I wanted to recall for a minute. I don't think I ever shared this story with you all the time I spent with you and your family. I never shared this. It was years ago. It was probably, so I've been doing real estate for about 25 years now. And it was probably about 23 years ago. I'd only been in real estate a little bit of time. And I'd had this, principal. He was in the Maryland area and he had been principal of this school for years and years and years. And he tracked me down from some other referrals and he said, I'm ready to, sell the house. And I came in and I immediately put on my staging hat and my helping hat of, and so we need to take down all these personal photos and all of your awards. And oh my gosh, he ended up in a ball and in tears and yelling at me. And I, of course, was so oblivious because I was just there to help and I wanted him to get the most amount of money for this house. And he had in his basement, Phillip, he had the most beautiful collection of trains. And the entire basement, which his wife was so precious, she just said, yeah, go at it. He literally kept expanding all of these different environments of this train. And it was magical. And of course, I was terrified by the time, I just asked him to take off some pictures and some awards. When I saw the train, the whole basement was trains and train, buildings and all sorts of stuff. And it was beautiful. And I thought this must be magical at Christmas time. But I realized that really, and again, I also realized there was no way he was not going to remove it under any circumstance. And I needed a buyer who was going to be okay with this. And I was like, wow, this is painful. I didn't, and that was also where I was like, there's no crying in real estate. Like there's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in real estate. However, there is crying in real estate. So will you talk about how do you talk to the most responsible child about what transitions and what are the options? Because I know you guys are counselors, right? You help.
Yeah, I think of medieval times, I think it's the terminology is being quartered. It's where they would hook a person up to 4 horses, one on each limb, and pull the person apart. That's what the most responsible child's going through for 4 different reasons. It's usually a female, the one that's been helping mom. They've been taking mom to the appointments, the doctor's appointments. They're still trying to make mom happy, even though she just had to move into this long-term care community. Nobody wants to move in there normally. It's like they're told they have to do it. So now you're trying to make mom happy. You're trying to make the community happy, which is usually exponentially more expensive than you're used to. So now you're trying to fund that and get all the paperwork ready for that. Then you've got, how to pay for it. You've got the siblings there. Now you talk about crying. It's usually because of the siblings, because the average sibling lives 400 miles away from mom, 400. So that person is usually one that's very opinionated about what's going on without actually being there to take care of it, where the most responsible child is the one that has the brunt on them. And then the fourth thing people forget about is this is like a full-time job that just happened to that person, and they still have a husband at home or a family at home that didn't go away. So they're being quartered. They're literally being torn apart. And so I feel like they've been getting a lot of bad news lately, Jennifer. They just heard from the doctor that mom, she had that hip surgery. The hip surgery went great, but the doctor said in 3 weeks, when mom gets out of rehab, she cannot move back home. And now the kids are literally, it's called crisis mode. Crisis mode. What do we do for crisis mode? So like you said at the beginning, these families are looking for the best people to get advice from, because they are making some pretty, big decisions about their mom's care. And it's usually the first time in life where your mom's been that rock for you your whole life, that she's been helping you make decisions. This is the first time when the adult children step in and start making decisions for mom. Ooh, baby, you talk about fireworks, right? I love it when they say, I took my keys away from my mom and she sure hated it. And I said, you have a kid? And they're like, yeah. And I said, could you imagine when your kid comes and takes your keys? They're like, and they're always like, oh yeah, I guess I should think of it that way. Yeah, you're right. I'll be yelling at my kid too when they try to take my keys. And so they forget how hard this all is. There is a lot of tears. I wanted to tell you, I was at a party on Sunday, and I was telling the gentleman what I did, and he said his family, they had 5 brothers and sisters. So he was one of the 5. They made a list of everything in the house that wasn't for the estate sale. So keep in mind, these are the things they were going to keep. That list, Jennifer, had 2,500 items on it. 2,500. I'm like, well, what the heck was left for the sale? 2,500. They said they went through, they had to go in order of, because 2 of his brothers were engineers. So imagine this. They had to go through like a fantasy football and pick in order of what they want. And he said they thought it would take a few hours. It took 2.5 days to pick out. And then the person who got the first choice was the only sister. And she thought mom already said she could have her wedding ring. And the brothers are like, well, forget that mess. What do you mean? And so then the argument was, does she use her first pick of the fantasy draft to get the wedding ring? But does that include the, what's the other one? The other band, the women wear the multiple. And I'm just like,
wedding band. Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And by the way, this is for a family that gets along, Jennifer. Yeah. This is a cluster for families that get along. When families don't, which is way more common than them getting along, imagine the resentment, the anger, what's going on. So when you said you came in to help that guy with trains, I thought about that for a second. You were there to help, right? But it was the retail mentality of get this house ready for the market. Yeah. When I deal with families and I deal with the adult children, they know they're not going to do that, right? The realtor walked in and the realtor said, clean this place out, then do this list of things to get it ready for the market. And they don't want to do that. Their concern right now in that moment is to get mom the best care. And that is the best. That's who I help. I help the most responsible child in this time. Remember, they got the bad news from the doctor that mom can't move back home. Then they got bad news from the community that they picked out. Families pick out what I always call the shiniest or the prettiest chandelier. You take mom to the nicest one you can afford, right?
Right.
And then the finance director tells you it's $8,800 a month. And you and your brothers and sisters are looking at each other like, who's paying for that? And in that moment, they realize they have to sell the house. So when I show up, remember, I didn't give them the bad news that mom has to move out. I didn't give them the bad news of what it costs. I didn't give them the realtor's bad news of clean this place out and rehab it. For once, I'm this bright, shiny light that goes, take your heirlooms and leave the rest and we'll close in 2 weeks. And they're like, hot damn. You know what I mean? Like, wow, some good news. Finally, I've gotten some good news finally. And so I'm this warm hug in a time when they're going through some crisis mode, and I get to be, I say I get to be a hero, right? I get to take some pain away. I see the weight come off of the adult children's shoulders when we make the deal happen. And why? Because I treat people fairly. I give them all their options. I say, hey, here's what I would do to get your house retail ready. But, right now, the real estate market, you guys are listening right now, the real estate market's phenomenal today. But good luck trying to get a rehabber or a list of rehabbers through that house to get it retail ready. Because everybody wants to say, oh, just paint and carpet and get it on the market. No, that's 2 of 27 things you probably have to do to get the house ready. And then it comes down with when you're trying to pay for mom's care, how the heck are you going to pay for the rehab, right? We're trying to make money. Now, mom usually owns the house outright. So do you go get a home equity loan? Does the richest brother or sister front the money till the end? Does mom move near me or near my brother or near? There's hundreds of questions, and it ends up being manifested usually in them arguing over who gets the salt shakers collection.
Yeah.
Because they're angry about something else, right? And there's so much emotion, Jennifer, that I have learned in my 22 years. I've been doing the senior living thing for the past 10, how to help that adult child. That's when I make decisions for mom's house. It's almost always, am I putting the adult child first in this? Because that person that's being hoarded, I get to be something good for once. And they need it so badly that they appreciate it. And I don't know how many times I've heard, I wish more people knew about your service. And hey, that's why we're here today, right? That's what we're talking about.
And that's exactly, I always want to be, the reason I decided to do the podcast is I always want to be a source of resources and a source of help for anyone who is looking for help. And again, people who want to put ripples of goodness. And like I say, you find that yay in every day. And we've had a lot of amazing transitions, I'm going to say. And I've, over 25 years in real estate, I've realized how often each of us just needs someone who will consult with us, but also have our heart in the right place. And also, one thing I know that your heart is so in the right place of helping, being that of service, of gratitude and things of that nature. And I do want to get back around. We didn't get to finish. I'd love to know how Mom's House came to be and why this was so important to you. But one of the things that I think is so important is that we always find a way that we're helping others around us. And so often in real estate, we end up, they have real estate agents have a bad rap because there are some sleaze bags in it. Real estate investors get a bad rap because there are some, and for a reason, because there are some bad players who are really out to take advantage. And so I think it's really important to address that. But will you start before you address that, or while you're addressing that, talk about why it came to mind to found this place, Mom's House? I mean,
back in 2010, if you remember, we were just coming out of a recession, right?
Yeah.
And so we thought all the best leads were going to come from the banks. And back then there was a lot of bank REO properties that we could go buy. And so it wasn't consistent enough for me, meaning as an investor, they always wanted to put the houses out for the owner occupants first. They had a look back, like a 30-day period where the owner occupants could buy it first. And it kind of made it where I would know about the deals early because I worked for an REO company, but I wasn't able to buy them. So think how frustrating it was to know about a deal, but couldn't buy it. And by the day 31, everybody and their brother knew about it because it was already on the market and no one else in retail land wanted it. So it just was frustrating. And so I started to look at how do I make my phone ring with leads? And so I've sent millions of pieces of direct mail, pay-per-click, I don't even know how much I've spent. I don't even want to know because it's so expensive for pay-per-click. Of course, SEO. And I've done the weird ones too, Jennifer. I've done like pizza top box marketing. You order a pizza and there's like a flyer.
Yep. And then in the grocery store, you're in the cart.
I've done that. Oh, I've done that. I have a buddy that sells it. Yeah, I've done that. I've done
Phillip Vincent.
Yeah, I've done church bulletins, which are pretty good, but not enough. And then I started doing. I'm a curious person, right? I'm always like, what is everybody else? Here's everybody over here. What can I do over here, right? What are people not thinking about? And it led me to Life Alert. They have fallen and I can't get up. And I said, boy, if somebody buys that for their mother, there's probably a good indication that they're going to end up not living at that house very much longer, right? I look at sales as a conversation, right? You don't want to be too early. You definitely don't want to be too late, but can you get in the conversation at the right point? And so in that, we started talking about the generalities or the stereotypes of most of our sellers. In 2010, we had done 66 deals that year. We're like, what is the commonality of these 66 people? And as an investor, we're looking for 4 things. We're looking for true motivation to sell, a house that has equity, a house that we can add value to, and less competition. And when we figured out that almost every time that dad had passed away 8 years ago, mom's been doing the best she can on a fixed income, something happened, some catalyst, she fell or something, and the adult children are scrambling to try to get the best care. I said, well, who is going out and talking to the senior living communities? And my partner said, no one is that I know of. And I said, well, I'm going to change that. And so my bravado, I just walked in and I said, hey, I'm Phillip and I buy houses. And I wasn't getting the results I wanted because why? Like you said, Jennifer, they want to put you in one of 2 boxes, the shark investor box or the realtor box. And both of them don't work because shark investor, you're done. They're never going to refer to you. Realtor, the term crocodile brain, their brain shuts off. They already know what a realtor is. They don't need more realtors. In fact, realtors is how they've been doing it for the past 20 plus years. And here's the problem. A senior only has a 28-month, that's how long they're going to last on average, right? Mm. So to get mom in, I asked this loaded question. Here's a $100,000 sentence for your listeners. Do you ever have a situation where they want to move mom in, but they can't until they get the house sold? It gets a laugh every time. They're like, Phil, yes, every day I deal with that problem. And I go, are you working with anyone right now in that situation? What did I just say? Did I say I'm an investor? Did I say I'm a realtor? No, I didn't say that on anything. I just unlocked their brain to say, Phillip fixes this problem because everybody cares about what's in it for them, right, Jennifer? So The senior living world, if you ask the question the right way, I'm fixing a problem that they face every day. I deal with people in this situation so much. I've built like a vendor list of people that buy cars, that buy gold, that buy jewelry, because I'm not in the stuff business, right? I'm in the house business. And even if they don't sell me their house, I give them this freely, say, hey, these are the people I trust that are going to get you through this. And so in the senior living world,
I want to interrupt you just for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that I think is beautiful is that you say you're in the house business, but I really think you're in the helping business. Because number one, what you decided to enter the conversation was, how can I help people? Because when you help people, the money will always come. Everybody will end up with a win-win as long as you have your heart on the helping side of being of service. And that's one of the reasons that when I met you, it was just instant. I was just like, oh my gosh, I just absolutely admire you. And I love your 2 young boys and your wife. I mean, you have really, and you live what, it's so fun to be around you guys because you really walk the walk. And I love the communication you have. And again, in this thing, one of the things that I think is important to kind of, that's where I want to pause you just for a second is, one, I think you're in the helping business with houses. It just happens to be with homes or houses or whatnot. Yeah. But you also want to, I'm always talking about, you need to build your yay team. And one of the things that I think is so beautiful about what you do with Mom's House is you are building a yay team for them. And the ironic thing that a lot of times people don't realize is that everything changes. We so often want it to stay the same because it's comfortable and whatnot, but your yay team also has to change. And when you get to a point in life, whether you are the most responsible child helping your parent with a transition, or whether it's you in this transition or however, or you might be a friend of someone who you need a new yay team. And Mom's House and what you do, Phillip, and what you've created, from my viewpoint, of course, from the outside looking in, seems, number one, you are in the business of helping people with houses that are in a transition, but you're also in the business of helping them with building whatever yay team they need for that specific time in their life, which is, again, one of the things that we so often have a hard time with is being present. And like being around your 2 sons is one of those things you realize you better be present because they move so fast and they are constantly, they're questioning and they're curious and all that stuff. And you are too. I mean, they take after your curiosity of how can I help? And how can we find the silver lining, the rainbow in the storm? We don't get rainbows until after the storm, but there is definitely a storm with this kind of transition. So I just wanted to highlight, especially that yay team, because, looking for the jewelry person and looking for this person. And I mean, all of that is so critical to what you do at Mom's House, right?
Yes. And I like that you called it a storm. That's what they're going through. And it's called crisis management. And the reason why it's so hard to figure out their yay team is because they're going through a crisis. Their head is spinning, right? The most important thing is mom's care, but then there's 100 other questions to answer, and who you get your feedback from is super important. I keep using the analogy of the mailman. We're all real estate people, so we all know what direct mail is. We all know what postcards are. And right now, if you have a high equity property, you might get 20 postcards a week, right? Imagine if the mailman came to your door and said, don't call any of these other 19, call Jennifer. She's the most trusted buyer in town. Well, you'd be like, oh, cool. Thank you for that, right?
Yeah.
Think how much more important it is when you're talking about mom's end of life care, not the mailman. We're talking about mom. We're looking for trusted advisors. And you said something earlier that I want to harp on. This is we're talking about real estate, right? I mean, we're talking about so much more than real estate, but we're talking to real estate investors. When I think about the stereotypes of the real estate investor, it's the guy showing his check. Look at the size of my check. Look what I just did. And that doesn't play at all in the senior living world, right? If you're not there to care, and if you're not there to help, and if you're not there to be that help with that crisis management, don't get started in this business in the senior side, right? Be more transactional, do those other ways. But for people that, I would say this is a great business for good people that want to help. And if you put that first, the money is the easy part. In this thing, the senior living world has a problem. The families have a problem. We are the easy part, Jennifer. The investor, of course, we're looking for deals like that. So if you can get yourself out of the way and help first and solve all these. For me, I like to solve problems quick and go to the next one. Solve problems quick and go to the next one. That's my personality. And that's why you said my genesis of how this started. I was a developer when I was 20. I built houses when I was 20 years old. And I worked my way back to being a wholesaler. And I bet half the people on your show right now listening, they're wholesalers and they would love to become a developer one day. And I'm like, it wasn't my personality. And so I love what I do. I think you can see that in me. I love what I do every day. And I feel like these families, this adult child that's going through this, the bigger I get with mom's house, the more of those people I get to help. And in turn, that's the greater good for people, right? By putting people first, helping them in that crisis management. That's my goal every day.
Well, and the other thing that I love about what you're doing about helping is you're not just helping the families and that, but you like helping real estate investors be part of this network as well, right?
That's right. I can't be everywhere. I cannot be everywhere, and I want to teach them the right way to do this. I had a lot of bumps and bruises back in 2011 of what I thought they would want. Can I give you the example?
Yes.
Somebody's listening right now today. Yeah, I'll give you the example right now today. They hear Phillip said real estate is great. Obviously, that's why we're here. And then go to senior living communities. And I'll just put my hand out and I'll say, hey, I'm Bob and I buy houses from old people moving into nursing homes. Hold on.
Okay.
People might hear that and think that's what I do, right? They think that's what I do. And if you do that in that 3 seconds, you just blacklisted yourself. You just wasted your time. You wasted their time. And so I train investors to do it the right way with all the bumps and bruises, my stubbornness, the years it took me to figure this out. There's hundreds of people that work in senior living, different job titles. And I've got about 9 or 10 that are the perfect people to talk to because they're having those hard conversations. I'll show you how to become a value in those people's lives, the senior living industry, because they're dealing with those families every day. That's who those families are getting their trusted advice from. They're that mailman saying, don't call anyone else, call Jennifer. But it's even more important, right? Because it's in that crisis mode. They're looking for people that are going to do what they say. And that's the problem with our industry sometimes. We have investors that don't do what they say. I can't have that in mom's house, right? I need people that are there to help these families in their time of need, and the money comes with that.
And so you do a little bit of both because you teach people how to do this, but you also, will you share a story kind of from beginning to end so that anyone who might be tuning in can listen and understand? So if somebody, say for instance, somebody reaches out and they say, okay, I'm in this situation. So take us from the beginning to the end of some of the stuff that you do.
Sure. I'll give you one that I think is on the funny side. And it just shows you how important what we do is. There was a gentleman that I met. He had a small ranch. It was his mother-in-law's house, which is normally I get the actual sibling, not the in-law. I asked him, why are you helping out? And he said, my wife, it was his wife's three sisters. So there was four daughters, and he was helping the mother-in-law because the mother-in-law knew the 4 daughters didn't get along. Oh. So she put in charge her son, who, by the way, guess what he did for a living, Jennifer?
Real estate?
He was a rehabber.
Oh. And
he had rentals. So in my head, I'm like, why am I here? This guy does this for a living. He was like a football coach. He had rentals. He did flips for a living in the town where we were standing. I'm like, why am I here? This guy does what I'm doing why does he want to sell it to me, right? Why would this guy want to do that? Because the family wasn't getting along. And I at the end of the walkthrough, I said, hey, why am I here exactly if this is what you do? And he said something I thought it was spot on. He said, Phil, me and my wife have talked about it. If we bought out bought out the sisters and rehabbed it and sold it, and we made even $1, we would get ostracized from the family because we took advantage of mom. And he goes, yes, I know how to do a rehab, but hell no, I'm not going to do this rehab because of the family dynamic, right? Let's not forget about the family dynamic. And so they were trying to help mom. The mother-in-law, the person moving into senior living, put the son-in-law in charge because of the family. And so I was able to buy that house. He was happy. Mom was happy. I was happy. And that took the stress away from the family. Because when I say and this is where I'll give you something right now. I praise the most responsible child, whoever that is, because I say, you know why this burden is on you? Because your mom and dad knew you were the one that could handle it.
Yeah.
Right? That's who, and I always think, because sometimes, I'm from St. Louis, right? There's, a lot of Catholic families that have 6, 7, 8 kids. I'm dealing with the most responsible child, and sometimes they're a knucklehead. I'm like, if this was the most responsible one, what's the other one's like? And there's always one that lives out of town that's really opinionated, that's not helping. They're being but I've got solutions for all of it. I've done this so long now that I can help that person through that crisis management and be like, well, at least the house part was easy. And that's my goal every single day.
Well, and I know that you have a heart of gratitude. Will you share what you're grateful for?
Oh, my goodness. Every day I'm grateful for my mobility. We don't think about our mobility until we lose it, right? I'm 42 years old. When you're in the senior living world, you realize what they've lost normally is their mobility. There's called activities of daily living, ADLs. And I think there's 6 or 7 of them. And if you can't do 2 of them, that's when they say you need to move into assisted care. Mm. One of the questions is, can you put your pants on without bracing yourself or getting assistance? And I'm like, man, sometimes I need to brace myself. I'm like, oh no, you know what I mean? Like, we don't think about it. And that's me at 42. And I can see how quickly that it goes that I forget to take my medication, or I can't help myself feed myself, or I can't bathe myself, or I can't, it goes fast. It goes fast, Jennifer. And I think my gratitude comes from living every day to the fullest and trying to not be so wound up over things that truly have no meaning. People get mad over things that have no I to tell you something I do. If a problem crosses my desk, which is, every day everyone has problems. I say to myself, will this be a problem in 90 days?
Right.
And hardly ever is the answer yes. And it makes me go, okay, we're going to be okay. Yeah. Let's keep going here. And so I'm grateful for my wife, my life, my 2 children. I've got a life by design. I take to the idea of building my life first and then building my business around it. And almost everybody I know does the opposite. Yeah. So that's what I do. I'm grateful for my life because I've worked really hard to get this where I'm at today.
Yeah. And it's so fun because, again, I'm so grateful to know you, your wife, your kids. And I love that what you've done, what you've decided to do as far as your niche, and also because you just have that heart to help. You're wanting to find a way that you can actually, as you said, enter the conversation, but enter the conversation in a helping intention. That intention to help, I think, is what changes the world. And so often is not talked about on mainstream media and some of the other things. We end up missing that. And I'm so grateful to know you. And I'm grateful that you are helping others. You're teaching other real estate investors. You're also helping so many people that are in that very emotional time of their life. So thank you for all that you do. So go ahead. Will you share with us, how can people find out more about Mom's House?
Sure. And I want to tell you, we're talking today because I want your listeners to be on my Yay team.
Yay!
I want them to be on the Yay team, right? I want to show them that if you're a Yay team type person, I need that in every city across this country. So I want them to be part of my Yay team. And so simply, you just go to momshouse.com. We'll talk. We'll see if we're a good fit. And if we are, we can help a lot of people and make a good living.
And real estate investors?
Yeah, momshouse.com. It's the same. That's
momshouse.com. Okay, good.
Right. Yes.
Well, Phillip, thank you so much. I wish you a very blessed day. Thank you for being with us today. Appreciate it. Yay! And as I say, every single episode, find a way to make someone else smile today. I am Jennifer Hammond.
Hi, I'm Jack Kemp.